Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen are the pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video, so I do have a bonus pair in store. So yeah, guys, normally go take a look at my trades for the week, but I didn't take any positions this week. The markets have been falling quite aggressively. We have seen some corrections towards the end of the week, kind of end of Friday. We did see some pairs correct themselves. As you can see, we've got Euro USD in front of us here. Nice correction. We had some yen pairs correcting themselves as well, so, and CAD pairs as well. So we have seen some corrections, which is good because I want to be seeing some corrections. The market's been falling pretty aggressively across different assets, so I want to be seeing some corrections, and finally we're starting to see them. So hopefully we can find some nice opportunities next week, but no positions for me to report on this week. So first things first, Euro USD as always. So nothing's changed with the pair. We have seen some nice movement to the upside, but again, that is minuscule compared to the price action we've seen over the past kind of month or two. So nothing's changed from a structural perspective for Euro USD. Everything's still looking bearish. In fact, on the daily time frame, we're taking out some very key structural lows here. So I'm definitely very bearish, even from a higher time frame point of view. So I do expect more downside still. And yeah, trying to see some pullbacks into some nice areas of broken support and resistance, particularly this key level on the daily chart. This was a very pivotal point which we broke through not too long ago, and now I'm looking for the retest on that from a daily point of view. We broke through, saw some nice bearish candlesticks below, haven't come back for a revisit yet, and again, this is a nice big fresh area. If you can get some shorts from here, looking to ride the move to the downside back to the lows, potentially further. I am looking at this point here on the weekly time frame as potential targets we could be working towards longer term, but I'm kind of playing it day by day a little bit with Euro USD, because every single low you just keep breaking through. So I'm just going to stay short as long as the structure stays short. So on the 4H time frame, as you can see, the market is still giving us these lower lows and lower highs. We've got the big old daily level there at 1.065. It does look like we've had a bit of a V-shaped reversal here in the 4H time frame. Very strong impulsive move back down, equally strong impulsive move back up. These normal V-shaped corrections, or reversals I should say, do typically mean the market is getting ready to move to the opposite direction. We had one on gold, which I broke down a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last week. We had a nice V-shape a couple of weeks ago. We had a nice V-shape reversal, and normally we do expect the market to push up. So I do think we'll probably see some further upside for Euro USD coming into the beginning of the week. But coming back into 1.06, I will be looking for the market to form another lower high. As long as we don't go and break through this swing point here, I'm expecting us to come up, form a lower high somewhere, and come straight back down again. So my area of interest is this big zone here on the daily time frame, breaking retest at 1.066. Again, I'm not looking so much just for big bearish engulfing from this level. I'll be waiting for some lower highs, some development first before I look to short. I'm not going to simply short just because we're trading at that area. I want to see some signs that we're about to roll over again, and then of course targets can be back down to that prior low there, or potentially further as well, because I still do believe there's more downside for Euro USD past this point. But yeah, going forward, still bearish in Euro USD, consistent lower highs for quite a while now, still expecting more downside. Dollar still looks strong. However, based on this price action coming in from Thursday, Friday, it looks like we'll probably see some more upside to start the week. So keep an eye on 1.06, 1.066, I should be a bit more exact. Keep an eye on that level, big level in daily time frame. Haven't got a retest yet. If we can get some necessary development at that area, we'll be looking for some shorts, and again targets back down to the prior low. So keep an eye out for some more sales for Euro USD next week. Okay, so on to our next pair, we've got dollar yen. So dollar yen, everything is still pretty bullish, still seeing successive higher highs and higher lows. Still looking at price getting to 150. We're not too far away from that area now. We've been talking about 150 for quite a while. And yeah, we're almost there on 150.129. I'm talking about this high to be exact. Of course, 150 is a big psychological level as well, so it's got that natural attract towards it. But this is a very big level in the market, and I'm looking for the market to come and retest it. We may sell off from it, we may potentially break through. In fact, looking at the higher time frames, if I go to the monthly real quick, you can see we just had a monthly candle closure. Of course, we're coming to the end of September, so next trading week will be starting in October. So we can study the higher time frame candle closures here, particularly the monthly, and you can see momentum is still very much intact. everything is still looking pretty bullish. So I wouldn't be surprised if you do see dollar yen go and break through this high here on the left. So there could still be a lot more upside back to the 151,900, 152-ish area. I'm looking at 150, but we potentially could be pushing to that 152 area to take out that wick. But we'll take it step by step. Just you can keep that in the back of your minds for now. But yeah, going into next week, looking at that 150 area as a target. I'm seeing successive high lows here on the 4H time frames. As you can see, the market is still bullish, still pushing to the upside aggressively. If we can hold this area, it's expecting another high low forming there. Stop loss below that area, below the wick would be a nice safe space. And again, targets back to the high there. Maybe risk reward might not be the best for this position because we're pretty close to the high now, but it does depend on your entry time frame that you use. But nonetheless, 150 is looking like a very, very likely place for the market to head towards. So going to next week for dollar yen, keep an eye for some pullbacks into this area around 149. And yeah, if we can hold that trend line, hold that high low, I will be looking for a push into 150 and probably beyond, but I'll probably just take my profit at 150 just to keep it safe. But yeah, that's the plan for next week for dollar yen. Okay, so on to our next pair, we've got dollar CAD. So dollar CAD is looking very, very healthy. I like the price action here of dollar CAD. Lovely impulse to the upside to end the week with these two big candles here. So I really do like the price action. It will make the watch list for next week. So make sure you do check out my Telegram, link in the description. I'll post my top 5 setups for the week ahead, my watch list. So if you want to find that out, make sure you check out the Telegram link in the description. But dollar CAD looking very, very good for next week. I was talking about some buys coming into this week, but it didn't quite manifest itself. We were forming these higher lows, which is a good sign, but the main thing is we weren't breaking through the resistance here, which you can see was the former support, now acting as resistance. I need price to break through that first, then retest it, then I'll consider actually jumping into some longs here for dollar CAD. Didn't quite see that happen all week until we had this big sell-off, followed by this even bigger surge to the upside, and price now creating some new highs past this point here on the left as well. So what I'm looking at going to next week is some pullbacks and some continuations. Let me move this out of the way because my new focus will be the retest of this high. If you get a nice pullback, retest that area around 1.353. We'll be looking for some buys, and targets is back to the swing high over here on the left, just underneath 1.37. So I'm very, very excited for dollar CAD next week. Price action looks very neat. Looking for a break and retest of this area here. Hopefully we can get a pullback. The theme of the market recently has just been price falling aggressively or flying aggressively. So haven't really seen the pullbacks I've been after, but dollar CAD is not too far away from the area of interest. So hopefully Monday, Tuesday pullback, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday see the continuation. So that would be very, very nice. But if that happens or not, of course, I don't have a crystal ball. But dollar CAD looking very, very nice for next week. Hopefully you can get a retest, look for my entry confirmations in that area, and buys back to the swing high then the left just underneath 1.37. So that's the plan next week for dollar CAD. Okay, so on to euro pound. So euro pound still bullish for this pair, looking for a lot more upside. I was looking for some buys coming into this area this week. Didn't quite materialize how I wanted it to. We came into the level in the wrong session during the Asian session. Did see a slight reaction, but the market did break through. So not really looking at picking up any longs from that area anymore, but I am still looking at buys, but from a deeper correction into this area, just above the 0.86 handle around 0.861. If we can see a deeper correction into that area, I will keep an eye out for some longs. The market is pretty consistent with the higher highs and higher lows as of late. We've been very, very choppy if you look at the bigger picture, but now we're starting to build up a nice uptrend. So I'm looking at some buys around 0.861. Hopefully you can see the necessary confirmations there, and we can jump into some longs back to the swing high there. Keep it simple. I do think price can maybe have a bigger move. I am looking at this kind of bowl shape pattern on the daily time frame. We've got making lower lows now equal lows to now higher lows. So this kind of bowl shape pattern normally indicates reversal. So there could be a big uptrend forming for euro pound, but we'll keep it simple, just back to the swing high. Last week I was talking about this area here on the left as key level. So if we do start breaking through the swing high, we do have this level to deal with. Potentially could break through and get that big reversal, but of course we'll play it level by level. No need to forecast too far in the future when we haven't even got the entry yet. So keep an eye on this area 0.861. If we can see some good confirmations from there, could look to enter the trade, stop loss below the zone, and take profit back at the swing high. Makes a lot of sense there. So that's kind of the idea, the thought process going into next week for euro pound. Okay, so over to Aussie dollar. So Aussie dollar, very choppy still. It did look like we were going to get a breakout this week. Price was starting to break underneath this area here. So it looked promising, Aussie dollar. Then we had this big surge to the upside and price came back inside the range. It looks like it came back almost to the high, but we are seeing a pretty aggressive rejection around that 0.65 area. So essentially Aussie dollar is still kind of moving sideways. I mean, my higher time frame bias hasn't changed for a while now. Still looking at 0.62 down here, just underneath 0.62 into that swing low. So that's still the main game plan for Aussie dollar, waiting for some quality shorts. And again, not necessarily looking to hold the trade all the way down to the low, but that's the area I'm working towards with Aussie dollar. But you can see we are still rejecting this swing low here. So we had a big wick rejection there, take that zone across. You can see the market is throwing some wicks back into that area. So we're finding it hard to try and break higher, obviously finding it hard to try and break lower too. But if we can hold this daily support now turn daily resistance, I would expect us to eventually collapse the downside here for Aussie dollar, but I'm not really looking at any entries or any trade setups in this area. I do really want to see price start breaking back underneath this consolidation. Then I'll look for my retest, some lower highs, and take that trade. So that's kind of what I'm after for Aussie dollar. And anything in this kind of range area, I'm kind of backing away. There's obviously a possibility we could break to the upside as well. I have talked about this swing low here on the daily chart. We potentially might break higher first, retest that area, and then sell off. So that's a possibility as well. And again, same thing, still looking at swing to the low here. Just we might have a bigger pullback first, which is good because more opportunities, but nonetheless, you know, this is still the target I have in mind. So still looking at shorts at the moment. Nice hefty rejection, still favor dollar buys going into next week. So still do see some more downside for Aussie dollar. Just need to break through this 0.63650 support level, and then we can start talking about some entries and getting involved. But for the past few weeks, you know, I've kind of just been leaving Aussie dollar alone because we have been trading in that sideways market. It did look like we're about to break through, but obviously in hindsight we can see price did not do that. So hopefully next week we can get the breakout and start getting some trades to the downside. But yeah, next key target 0.62 back down at those lows. So keep an eye out for some sales next week if we do get the breakout for Aussie dollar. Okay, so NZD CAD up next. We did see a big move to the upside for this pair. We were expecting this move, not maybe to the extent it happened, because price has been moving sideways, similar to Aussie dollar. NZD CAD has been moving sideways. We had this fake out to the downside. So I was talking about these successive higher highs and higher lows that the market was starting to print. So I did say if you can come back, hold the low, the consolidation, there is a good place to look for buys, safe place to put your stop loss, anticipate potentially a move to the high of the range. So that's kind of the full process going into this week, which we did see a nice move, but I wasn't expecting to be so aggressive, and I wasn't expecting to be done by next week because it has been very choppy. But all of a sudden there has been a lot of momentum coming into the market here for NZD CAD. So buys are actually looking pretty good again for next week, and I would be looking at a retest of this area here. I know I'm asking a lot for the pullback, but I can't see any other feasible area for me to actually be looking for any entries. Possibly a breaking test of this high, but I'll need to see price really push away for me to consider a retest of that high. If it's just you know, a couple candle breakouts or we only clear it by a few pips, I won't be interested. I'm typically looking for the bigger pullbacks rather than the shallow break and retest. So the only area I would consider looking to buy from would be this area. I like the area a lot as well, because again, the market is starting to print the higher highs and higher lows like I mentioned, and now we're seeing some really good momentum as well. So if we can get a correction back into this area, that would be fantastic. Anticipate the next higher low at this 0.80600 area, and again, trade it back to highs essentially, or back to the resistance here, whichever one makes more sense when we get the trade opportunity. But NZD CAD buys look good coming into the week. They look again good going into next week as well, but the correction is vital to actually get some entries. Like I said, there could be a nice break and retest of the high, but I'd want to see price really pull away first before I consider it. So we'll have to obviously find that out going into next week. But as of now, if you do get a correction to 0.80600, I will consider some buys back to where we came from at 0.81350. So that's the plan going into next week for NZD CAD. Okay, so onto pound NZD. Now this pair has been exceptionally bearish, just falling to the downside, taking low after low after low. Looks like we are starting to break through some of the daily levels here on the left. As you can see, we just had a daily candle closure underneath that high there. So everything is still looking pretty bearish, definitely in terms of momentum. For pound NZD, I was talking about this area here last week, a nice breaking retest of this area would have been nice for some sales. Didn't really have that in us. As you can see, the market was kind of just moving sideways. You had a slight pullback there, sideways and dump. So just a lot of bearish momentum at the moment, but typically we don't see that last forever, and typically we will see the bigger correction come in sooner or later. So if we can still get this move, it still is a great place to short from. I would still consider looking for some entries in that area for another lower high, another selling opportunity. However, like I said, there's a lot of bearish momentum at the moment in time. We may only see a slight correction into this area here, which we haven't retested, just above 2.04, and from there potentially could sell off as well. So going to next week, I'm still expecting more downside, but I want to see a correction happen first. Whether it will be a large correction or a shallow one, I'm not too sure. As things stand, everything is very, very bearish, so I would have to favor the shallow correction. Not really too interested in that, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do get a bigger one, since on the daily chart you can see we've had a considerable fall and we've taken out some key areas here on the left as well. So I think we are due a bigger correction anyway, but of course I'm not a fortune teller. We'll just see what the market gives us. So keep an eye on both areas. They both look good. Just maybe the risk reward in the first area, depending on your time frame of entry, might not be particularly great. But again, we're still looking for price to come back into the lows here around 2.02721. So full process for pound NZD is still looking to attack it to the downside. Keep an eye on a retest of 2.04 and also 2.06 for some selling opportunities. But yeah, just looking at selling price exactly to where it came from. So keep an eye on some sales next week for pound NZD. Okay, so on to CAD Yen. So some interesting price action here on CAD Yen. Of course, we've talked about CAD Yen trading back at these considerable highs here on the higher time frames. If I scale to the weekly, you can see, we had a very, very big push to the upside here, 2022. Price had a big retracement. Now we're back at the same highs again. So will we reject them? Will we break through? Again, it's yet to be seen. We just had another weekly candle closure and of course a big wick to the upside. So we are struggling to break through that area. If we scale to the monthly as well, you can see the market is still looking bullish, but still yet to have a candle closure above it. So we are still holding onto that area. And if you zoom into the 4H time frame, this is some very interesting price action. And I say that because we've been pretty bullish. The market has been consistent with the higher highs and higher lows, but now we just had this kind of out of character sell off to the downside. It looks like it's kind of, we've seen corrective price action up here, markets moving steadily, and then suddenly they have this big impulsive drop to the downside. So what I'm expecting is that the market has been moving higher, people have been buying this, and now have been caught on the wrong side of the market trying to anticipate a bigger breakout, and now we could be selling off the market's grabbed some liquidity, and we could be seeing potentially a bearish trend form here to the downside, maybe to retest some structure down here. So I'm looking at possibly a move to 108,500. However, I do want to see some lower lows and lower highs form first before I jump into any selling opportunities. Yes, it's a nice sell-off, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if you start doing this again. The market is still pretty bullish on every single time frame, monthly, weekly, daily. 4H, we are still bullish on all these time frames here, so I'm not going to try and go against it too early. I definitely want to see an established lower low, lower high form before I look for any type of break and retest. So for now, I'm going to give a theoretical level because we just haven't formed the structure yet. I need some more information before I start telling you guys where I want to short from or look to position from. At the moment, we just haven't formed the levels yet, but if you can start forming some lower lows, lower highs, something like this, then I will consider some shorts and again look for a push to the downside, because this position is still counter trend. The trend is still bullish. Let's not forget that. Yes, we're rejecting a big high, potentially might sell off from here. It's all potentials. Everything factual right now is that the market's still bullish and this could just be another correction. So I want to see a bit more evidence that we are changing direction, and then that's when I'll look to take my position. So keep an eye out for some lower lows and lower highs, and yeah, if we can get some sells, we'll look for a push into this big level at 108,500 next week. Okay, so over to pound USD. So everything is still looking pretty bearish here for pound USD. Everything has been pretty bearish for the past maybe 2-3 months for this one. So yeah, I am still very bearish on this one. And of course, looking at the monthly time frame, very bearish candle there on the monthly. I'm looking at a push into this level of support sooner or later. Yes, you might see a correction to start off, but I'm expecting the market to follow through back into this 1.2 area. So longer term, I can see some more downside for pound USD. However, I do want to see some corrections first. Same thing with euro, same thing with pretty much every single pair that's just falling out the sky. Need to see some corrections. And with pound USD, like I was talking about on my live streams, I want to see a push into this area here, 1.235, and then from there I can plan some sells and a push to the downside. I do like the correction here, but again, it's similar to euro USD. This is kind of like a V-shaped reversal here, which typically does entail more upside. So it's actually a good idea, you know, to be looking for some sells slightly higher, because there's a good chance we do have some more room to the upside for pound USD. But again, I'm still treating this up move as retracement. So, you know, we could potentially sell off from here. You know, it's just not my trade. We potentially could, but it's not really giving me a setup or the confidences I'm looking for. If you can push to 1.235, from there I'll start to consider some shorts. And again, probably not looking for a push to 1.2 down there. I'll probably just look for a push into the low. Maybe not even that far. It depends on the trade, really. Obviously, I'll give you guys more detail, more information when we near the setup. But for now, this is probably what I'll be looking at if I do get some entries up there, back into the low at 1.212. So going forward, pound USD, everything's looking bearish here from the highest time frames to the daily to the full H. Still expecting a lot more downside, but yeah, I want to see some corrections first, and it would be nice to come back and retest this swing low here as well at 1.23, which we've had a pretty impressive breakthrough, never got a retest of. So we do have an incentive to head a little bit higher, retest that area, and start looking for some sell-offs again to the downside. So keep an eye on 1.235. Hopefully you can get a bit more upside for pound USD, and yeah, push back to the swing low, and eventually 1.2 for, well, next week and the weeks after. So that's the plan for pound USD. Okay, so on to pound CAD. So pound CAD still looking pretty bearish. It looks like we're having some life injected back into the market here. But again, this move here doesn't really outweigh this whole move here to the downside. So still looking at this as retracement. I am looking at a bit more upside first before continuing that down move. I was talking about these areas last week. So this swing low here, and I was talking about this swing low here as well. So I'm still keen for a retest of these areas. In fact, we're not too far away from the first one. So coming into next week, the same analysis as last week. 1.66 is looking like a good area. I like how we threw a lot of wicks to the downside in that area here. Possibly could do that again if things look good and get some nice confirmations. Could look to ride that back down if the price swing low. Same thing with the level just slightly above it as well, around 1.67 up there. Nice psychological level there too. So again, for pound CAD, high time frames look bearish for this one. Very convincing sell off to the downside. It does look like there may be some more upside to it. With pound USD, we had that kind of V-shaped correction, and looks like pound CAD kind of got the exact same thing here as well, similar to euro USD too. So it does look like there is some room to the upside, but we're still treating these moves as pullbacks, as corrections. So the bias is still very much short, looking for price to eventually come back to these lows and probably take them out as well. So nothing's changed from a bias standpoint. Still looking to attack to the downside. Just need to wait for price to come into our areas, 1.66 and 1.67. Monitor price action, wait for confirmations, and yeah, look for some sells back to where we came from into the swing low. So that will be the plan next week for pound CAD. Okay, so on to pound yen. So pound yen is starting to look like a decent setup here. I do have a bearish bias still for pound yen. Still looking at price coming back into this low, potentially these lows here as well. As you can see on the daily chart, we've been sliding to the downside here with these consecutive lower highs here. So all I'm looking at is another one that we've had a nice wick to the upside as well on Friday with this wick here. So I'm looking at, as long as price can hold this area here on the left, nice little break and retest, we can sell off to the downside, continue that pattern, and probably tick some of these levels off here. So the thought process is definitely looking to short the market. We are rejecting that area currently, so if we can come back and retest it on Monday, Tuesday, that would be a nice place to be looking for some sells, stop loss above the zone there, and again looking to take a trade to the downside. In terms of targets, I'd probably just keep it to this 180, 500 low, or possibly even this low here on the left with that wick. No need to try and push it too far past the key level. If you want to, of course, it's up to you how you manage your trade, but again, the further you push it, less likely price is going to get there. So I would recommend either trail stops or take partial, just to make sure that you do have profit locked in. So if you want to stretch your trade further, you can do so. Yeah, in terms of the bias for pound yen, still looking at shorts. We have consecutive lower highs, like we mentioned in the daily for a while now. We're coming back to retest some broken support and resistance. So if we can hold this area going into next week, nice place to look for some sells, wait for a nice shift in momentum, and again targets back down at this low here, eventually looking at 179,500. But we'll wait and see with the entry. I may look to push it, or I may look to cut my profits early. We'll have to see. But yeah, looking at some more downside next week for pound yen. Okay, so on to gold. So gold's had a crazy week. We were bearish coming into this one, but didn't really give us much opportunity to get into the trade. We just started taking low after low after low, and didn't really see much of a pullback for gold the whole week. So yeah, very impressive seller to the downside. Price has actually ticked off a couple of my targets. The first one was this low, second one was this low, and then I was looking at a retest of 1850, sorry, which is this high here, which the market has just gone and hit now. So with gold, I am looking at price coming back into this low here. Reason why is that we've had a pretty aggressive rejection on the monthly here with these wicks. So I do think there's a good possibility we're going to come back and retest the wicks here, this body of support. Potentially could break through, maybe come back to these areas, but of course 1800 is a big handle, so we just focus on that area for now. But as you can see, a very impressive weekly candle there. The chances are that momentum will carry us to the downside, whether we just drop because momentum is strong or we have a correction. Either which way, 1800, 1810, 1820 is looking likely to be tested. So the plan for the next week, or maybe 2 weeks, depending on how long it takes for us to get there, just looking for healthy corrections. My eyes are peeled on this low here. It'll be lovely for a retest of 1888. But again, if we think a bit more realistic with the current condition of the market, I'm not too sure we see such a big pullback. We potentially could, of course, anything can happen in the market. So it's important that you just look for your setups and wait for them to materialize. If they do materialize, you're there to take them. If they don't materialize, on to the next setup. So with gold, I'm favoring a retest of that area, but in terms of the current conditions, we may just see a short pullback Monday, Tuesday, if that, and then just keep selling off to the downside. I would not be surprised if we just see gold do something like this. So I would say for people in the lower time frames, hourly and below, keep an eye on a retest of the 1860. This could just be the area that sends price to the downside. If you do have a slightly more juicy pullback, I do favor some bigger pullbacks for other dollar pairs like Euro USD, Pound USD. So I'm wondering if we might see that for gold, but kind of gold's on its own planet right now, because this was the only kind of market which is falling to the downside, of course, along with silver as well. Yeah, the other dollar pairs, Euro, Pound, they're having a bit of a correction. Obviously, dollar CAD's kind of doing its own thing as well, with CAD moving crazy with oil. But yeah, gold's been very impressive here. So if you can see some corrections, keep an eye on 1860, 1888 would be ideal. But yeah, looking at 1820 down there as the next major target. Okay, so over to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, nothing's changed, still bearish with this one. It's not moving too well, but I'm still looking at this low here being taken out. Been speaking about that low for a while now. We were very close, but price had a big correction since then, but nothing has changed. So I'm still looking at price selling off. We're coming back into this high. It's either we can hold this area, sell off the downside, take out these lows, or price has a bigger pullback into this area, which was actually the first area I was looking for the market to come back and retest, but yeah, we didn't quite make it there. So I'm still looking at 28,800 as a possible area for a retest, since was brief support, broke through with great momentum, never had the retest, so it's still fresh, still unretested. You know, the market does have an incentive to come back and retest that area for some shorts, so I won't be too surprised if you do see a bigger push and a bigger push into that area, then we get the big sell-off. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Bitcoin, depending on whether we hold this or not. We'll be looking for sells here for move to the downside, or we get a bigger pullback, then looking for sells there to the downside from 28,800. So keep an eye out for some shorts for Bitcoin. You've just come into the area, so if you can throw some wicks there to the upside, things will look good for some entries. And again, that will be a nice place to put your stop loss above, anticipating another sell-off to the downside, another lower high. If not, then we can look for a bigger pullback. Let me drop to the daily, a bigger pullback into 28,800, and from there we can anticipate another sell-off as well. Yeah, the market has failed miserably to take out that high there. Aggressive sell-off to the downside, so the chances are this low is probably going to go. So that's the thought process behind Bitcoin. Shorts still looking good. You can see the successive lower highs now. Looking for another one in this area. Potentially you might take out some of these highs here, test that area, and then sell off. So that's kind of why I'm looking at that area there too. But either which way, shorts are still looking good, and I'm looking at this low here at 24,700 being taken out. So that's the plan next week for Bitcoin. Okay, so last but not least, we've got a bonus pair, which for this week is Aussie Yen. So I really like the price action for Aussie Yen. We've gone from like a slow bearish market to a sideways market to now even a slow bullish market, to be fair. But as of late, we've really picked up with a really nice impressive move to the upside. So I'm looking at buys going into next week. You can see we've gone from making these steady lower lows here to now making some equal lows, and then now some higher lows. So gone from a very slow bearish to sideways to bullish, and I'm looking at price coming back to retest the high. Oh, did not mean to do that. Retest the high here on the left at 97,580. So if I expand to the higher time frames, you can see prices broke through all of the structure here on the left, giving us a higher high, came back to retest it with this big wick. Now it's starting to print some higher highs and higher lows. There's a good chance price is coming back to test the swing high then on the left at 97,580, we'll call it. So hopefully we can get some pullbacks with this one. In fact, we've actually kind of got a pullback already, so I am actually looking at buys pretty early next week on the retest of this high, or on the retest of this high just underneath, depending on the confirmation candles I get. But as you can see, pretty consistent with the higher lows here. So I'm essentially just looking at another one at one of these two areas. If I can see the necessary confirmation candles I'm looking for another move to the upside, back into the highs, possibly back into 97,580. Again, in terms of the trade, I'm not too sure if I'll call it a day back at the high here. It does really depend on the risk reward. If I can get 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3 into that high there, then I'm more than happy to call it quits at the high. If the risk reward's not that great, then I will push trade a little bit further. Again, there's still a good possibility we'll get to this high, but there's a great possibility the market will get to this high. You know, we have to go further, we have to break through a high. So just looking at pure logic, there's a greater chance the market gets to this high than that high. But of course, if the trend's going to continue, then we expect it to get there. So it does depend on the risk reward. If I can get 1 to 2.5, 1 to 3 there, I'll be more than happy to call it a day. But we'll have to see with the entries and whatnot. But in terms of the levels I'm interested in, it definitely is these two levels here. Again, the first level, prices has kind of already come back to retest. Right now, of course, there is no kind of signal there if the market's going to hold or not. We could potentially gap below, you know, on the weekly candle open. So we have to adjust and adapt to what market gives us. But these are the two areas I am interested on. So we'll keep an eye out for both of them. Of course, we'll take it level by level. So we'll see what happens here. If we break through, then we'll focus on the next one. Yeah, waiting for some entries to try and catch the next higher low. So keep an eye on the retest of 96 and also 95,770, but looking for a swing back to those daily highs eventually for Aussie Yen. So that sums up the weekly analysis for this week, guys. If you're finding these videos useful, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Let me know in the comments down below any particular pairs you guys are focused on for next week. I'm interested to find out. But guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure you do hit the bell so you don't miss on any streams or uploads in the future. But have a fantastic weekend, guys, and I'll catch you all next week.